Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. Well, I tell you, it's like a bad penny, huh? You think you're rid of us, and no, we come. Actually, I shouldn't say we. Bob is not here today. I'm Fiore. Welcome to In the Crease, and I have a very special guest tonight. Please help welcome back to the show, Dave Fryer. Dave, nice to have you here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate having me.
Bob is not here.
Those are shoes I can't fill. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, I don't know that anyone can fill those shoes because his feet are so tiny. I think they bound them when he was young. And we were actually sitting here before the camera started rolling, talking about Bob's prowess as a netminder, because we're going to talk about netminders tonight from the prospect camps and what have you. And I think Bob is still the only goaltender I know of that let up a goal from 180 feet, from the other crease line to the crease line.
I thought his claim to fame had something to do with penalty minutes for a goaltender.
I don't know. I might give him a run on that one. I don't know.
We'll let him have a pick of which one he wants to be.
Yeah, when Billy Smith is your idol. Anyway, it's great to be back. We're looking to a whole new season of In the Crease. We are going to have the show is receiving this year an entire makeover. Going to come to you from a different night, possibly a different location, have some different guest hosts down here. In fact, I should tell you at the onset of the show that we are entertaining the idea of possibly adding another co-host. So this is your great opportunity that if by any chance you think you know hockey, and I don't mean know hockey like some of these Freylocks in town know hockey, I mean know hockey the way it really is, the way we discuss it here on the show, and you'd like to be part of the show, we'd like you to give Dave Cable a call here at the studio. You can call him at 412-831-3304. Drop your name off, and I will get in touch with you. We're going to be running some auditions and seeing if we can add another co-host to In the Crease. So if you're a big hockey fan, and of course you're a fan of the show, I've been watching for years, this could be a nice little opportunity. Drop us a line. Dave will talk to you, I'll talk to you, and we'll take it from there. So, big things coming for In the Crease this season, and we're kicking off this season with Dave because, Dave, last time we had you on the show, and I don't want to even wager as to how many years ago that was, but you were very, very heavily involved in coaching.
Correct.
That phase of your life is kind of behind you now, and you
Correct.
have moved on. Why don't you first start off by bringing all of our viewers up to speed?
Okay, yeah, I don't like talking about myself very much, but we'll go with that as an intro. I was in coaching. I was coaching at Duquesne University at the time that I was here last. I think it's probably about 4 years ago. I went from there to Robert Morris University, and then as of 2 years ago, I am a retired coach at a very young age. I got a ton out of that. I enjoyed it. I've moved on to administration in hockey. I'm the commissioner of College Hockey East, which is a local club hockey league in the surrounding areas. Actually, we cover 5 states, so I guess it's not that local. I am the referee-in-chief for WAPOA, which is the Hockey Officials Association in the area. I'm involved in FCA hockey, and I do some things with the PIHL, local high school league, throughout the year. So
Okay.
hockey.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there. Let's break some of that down. Let's talk about first when you jumped from Duquesne hockey to Robert Morris hockey. That's going from essentially club hockey to a Division I team. Talk a little bit about that. Big changes, big shifts?
It was actually, Robert Morris is a hockey school, and hopefully the area is starting to realize that because there's a lot of hockey being played around here that doesn't make television. Penguins do quite well, but there's still more hockey being played. Robert Morris is one of those teams. They have a men's Division I team, a women's Division I team, and 2 men's club teams. I was the head coach of the men's Division I club team there, which is pretty well the equivalent of what Duquesne was. Just with the extra involvement with the NCAA team was a pretty good door opener for me to see different things in the hockey world and know what's out there and know what it actually takes to run a Division I program. So that's where the administration comes in for me now. I really enjoy that side of the game. Yeah. Certainly enjoyed coaching and molding players and student athletes into fine young adults.
Would you say that was the pinnacle of your coaching?
Yeah. I mean, being at that level, my last game I coached under that capacity was the ACHA National All-Star Game, which was a pretty good. I did that 4 years, I think, 3 or 4 years of doing that one. So I definitely made it pretty far. Someone said to me the other day, and I don't like to pat myself on the back, but it was just kind of curious that I'm one of the few people in the country that have coached the that level and refereed at that level. So
Oh, very good.
you know, that's not too often. Normally you have to focus pretty hard on one or the other to get there. So I just had it in my blood. I have a passion for hockey. So as we all do. That's why we're watching the show and
Absolutely.
co-hosting the show. So.
Absolutely. Now, what was the allure, since you were having such a good time coaching, what was the allure to shift from coaching into the administration level?
Yeah, you spend a lot of time as a head coach, and maybe at the high school level and amateur level, this doesn't happen as much. But at the college level, when you're the head coach, you're the general manager, you're the janitor, you're the recruiter, you're the, and anywhere and anything in between, judge, jury, and executioner, I guess. And I really had a passion for that portion of the game, that my organization skills and just being able to be creative and think of ways to move a program along other than performance on the ice, which is obviously vital. But I felt my energies were better spent in the administration because I was, I think, good at it and passionate for it, and just felt like I was making more progress in that area of my skill set, I guess, than coaching. So.
Okay. Now, you are a commissioner of the College Hockey East.
Correct.
What is that?
Okay, yeah. There's obviously there's NCAA hockey out there.
Sure.
The biggest area of growth outside of women's hockey in the country is club college hockey. Little known fact, you get it all here in the Crease, right? There is multiple levels of ACHA hockey, which is American Collegiate Hockey Association. Underneath that, there's individual leagues. College Hockey East is one of those leagues. Within our league, we have 3 separate divisions. We have a ACHA division, which is all Division III teams. There are 7 of those, ranging from Fredonia, New York, down here to Pittsburgh, and then east to Johnstown. We have a CIHA league, which is kind of just a little step below that. That league ranges from Cleveland to Erie, down to Pittsburgh, and then east again to Greensburg. And then we have a women's division that's new for us this year that we've added. There's 4 teams in that currently. We're looking to expand on that in future years in terms of number, but in terms of distance, those teams go from here in Pittsburgh all the way to Delaware and Westchester near Philadelphia.
And these are all Division III club teams?
The first league is Division III club. The second one is not. If there was a Division IV, it would be essentially that. It's still very good hockey, and then the women's is actually, there's a women's D1 and women's D2. That's a women's D2 that we manage there.
Now, what would be the local colleges that we would recognize that are in this league?
Yeah, Cal U played out of
Sure.
Bethel Park Rink for a number of years. They're moving this year, but that's pretty local. Certainly right up front and center. Robert Morris has.
What, they did want to join the YMCA in order to play there?
No, their jumping jack skills are good, I think, or whatever, swimming, backstroke. So Robert Morris has a team there. St. Vincent College has a team there. Cal actually to pump their tires a little bit, they have a team in all 3 of our divisions. They have an ACHA Division III team, they have a CIHA team, and then they have a women's team. So that's a pretty good hockey school at this point. I mentioned Robert Morris being a good hockey school with the number of their programs, but Cal's not that far behind in terms of what they're doing. So.
And as a commissioner, you're over the whole league, not one of these divisions.
Correct.
So you need to do what, basically?
Yeah, it's operation. It is the nuts and bolts. Again, when I was at Duquesne, I was under the NCAA umbrella there also, and then double up at Robert Morris because it was NCAA hockey. But sports are business. You don't really realize that until you get into some of these meetings where they're talking about things you'd never expect. You think all the NCAA coaches would get together and talk about cool sports things, but it's really a business. Yeah. So we're not trying to look for Pepsi sponsorships or anything at our college league, but we're certainly looking to keep our budgets in check and put our playoffs. We conduct playoffs every year. That's a league level thing. Discipline is a pretty. I don't know, fun's not the right word, but it's definitely a unique aspect of that because there's some, as we all seen in hockey, some strange things that come across here and there that, you get phone calls from one person that tells the story and the next phone call is about the same thing, but it's a completely different story. And
sure.
So sorting through all that, making sure that the league is visible is the big step we want to take. One of the beautiful things about hockey to me is you can play it all your life. Yeah. Until your body physically shuts down, you can be on the ice playing the sport.
Bob might be the exception to that rule.
Well, that's mentally shut down. Not physically
that's
shut
true.
down. So, but yeah, but Bob somehow still plays. And speaking of discipline, his name has probably come up in a bunch of those things, and wherever he played in his lifetime. So yeah, it's just, I mean, and we're hoping is that kids understand that you can play even an average level of high school or amateur hockey in the area and move on to a good school that has a good hockey program and keep playing, and it makes your college experience that much more enriched.
I think Bob was the only player who consistently brought a hammer and crowbar out to the net with him. Now you're also the chief referee, or the referee in chief.
Correct,
I'm sorry.
yes.
Of WPHOA. Is that the same organization that at one time Tim Morgret
Yes,
headed up?
Tim Morgret is the president.
He's still around with
Yes,
the thing.
yeah.
Oh my God, he is like the Joker to my Batman.
There you go.
When we were doing the games from Bethel. Any game that he would ref, we'd always have him up to talk during the interviews,
Right.
and then afterwards, when he kind of took over the referee thing, we've had him on the show a couple of times,
Yeah.
and he is boy, I'll tell you what, he's a pain in the butt is what he is. But I guess now he's your boss, in a way, so we can't say that really. We got to say what a nice guy. Tim, if you're watching. Wish you could be back on the show, buddy. I haven't seen you in a while. So what do you do as the referee in chief?
Yeah, that's kind of a mix of all of the above, I guess. I was never a referee much growing up. That's just, you kind of were either a coach or you were a referee, one of the two. But the referee in chief is kind of a blend of both. If I would look at it and just, if you want to put it in very simple terms, I'm the head coach of all the officials in the area. But I'm not their boss. I'm not going to play that game whatsoever. That's absolutely not the case. My job is to make sure that they're motivated and put in the right games, and they're happy with what they're doing, and that they're informed on the rules and they're up to speed on things like that. And then be a liaison between the teams and the leagues and our association. So if something is not going well with the rule standards.
If a coach is ticked off about calls in a game, or
Correct.
if a parent is ticked off about.
Yes, yeah, that's.
You get to deal with all that.
Yeah,
and you consider this fun.
Yeah, that's like, maybe I should use that as a threat more often. You can carry my cell phone for a week and see what things are like. You never know what the next curveball is going to come with, But
That's
yeah,
true.
and that's again, plowing through some of those things is just one of the skill sets I have, is to take the the black and the white and find the gray and make everyone happy there. So that's kind of what that position entails. Mostly what internal though is making sure our officials are improving their performance and on top of their game and getting good feedback and informed of what's going on. If a league is looking to enforce something, I need to make sure our officials know it. So
Yeah. Now, do any of these, being the commissioner or being the referee in charge, have anything to do with your other trade of being a uniform designer? Or is that a totally different road?
No, I think they all tie in, because I cannot draw a stick figure if you gave me that pen and a blank piece of paper.
So how did you become a uniform?
Yeah, exactly. I can do it with a mouse and a monitor in front of me.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
So that's
Put a star here, a slash there.
Yeah, when I coached at Duquesne, I was asked, or I was looking into options for our jerseys.
Okay.
So I designed something on my own, which I'd done. I coached at West Allegheny locally and Kenton McMillan locally, and I redesigned jerseys there. When I was at Duquesne, I got prices around the country and went with this company. It was kind of an upstart at the time, but the prices were good. They seemed like they had their vision in place. And then they came back to me and said, okay, everything's good with your order, but our factory wants to know who did that design for you. So that was me. Well, we're going to get you on staff. Okay, well, I can't draw that well, but it's just kind of been a fun thing. It's taken off. I do it in the summer. That's the nice thing about it, is the teams want to do their designs in the spring and middle of the summer.
So what's your most famous design that's being worn out there right now?
Yeah, there's a couple all over the country. I did Chartiers Valley a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, I don't use those jerseys anymore, but that was a pretty big hit locally.
Colts.
Yeah,
Okay.
they did a design. They took basically they're the Colts, as you mentioned. They have a horseshoe logo. That the jersey had kind of a horseshoe shape to the front of it that was a little subtle. It wasn't obvious that it was a horseshoe, but it kind of fit the mold of the jersey. So that's kind of where that came from. It's just a hobby, I guess, on the side that turned into something that puts a little money in my pocket so they can afford gas to get here.
All right, it's time for us to talk. Thanks for bringing us up to speed, but it's time for us to talk some real hockey. Now, either because of your association of being a commissioner or the referee in chief, but more than likely it's probably because you design uniforms, that you were asked to be part of the Penguins prospect camp.
Correct.
And Dave has done some really good, I don't know exactly how this happened, but there's apparently a website called InsidePittsburghSports.com. I wouldn't recommend you go there because your hockey news is right here, and you don't need an outside source. God knows who the hell's writing for them. But Dave actually did like freelance work for them and wrote on the prospect camp. So, because the show is called In the Crease, let's start with the goaltenders.
Easy enough.
Okay. Take it away.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the Penguins organization is that 13 months ago, or I guess 14 months ago now, they had very little in stock in the organization in goaltending. 2 years ago, a year and a half ago at the draft, they picked up two more. They added at the end of last season, they signed a college goaltender after his senior season ended, and then they drafted a goaltender with their first pick this year, which was in the second round. So they went from having a very depleted system of goaltenders to four that have a ton of potential right now. So they've really kind of reversed the course on where we sat as an organization in Pittsburgh with goaltenders. That's obviously the position on everyone's mind this summer.
Absolutely.
After the playoffs, in the last 2 years. So it's good to know there's a future there. Any one of the four can go very far north, and any one of the four can go very far south. But having four gives you that. You're playing the odds at that point.
So who impressed you at the prospect camp?
Yeah, Eric Hartzell is the guy that's the front runner right now. He was the college sign last year. He's the oldest of the four, so that helps tremendously that he's gone through junior hockey and 4 years of college hockey, where the other three are still juniors.
He looked good in the playoffs.
Yeah, he backed up at the end of last year and just a backup role in a game, almost on an emergency basis. But he was practicing with the Penguins, so that really pushed him further. The reason why I think that he's really emerged in his camp is one, age and experience. He was the goalie for Quinnipiac that went to the Frozen Four. They actually went to the national championship game here in Pittsburgh.
And that was the first time Quinnipiac's been in the Frozen Four in billions of years. So
yeah, pretty much forever.
Yeah.
And then he has a really strong work ethic. He's a very smart kid. Quinnipiac's a good school, and you can kind of see that trait in him. But his work ethic is very strong. Physically, he's got some size and ability, but just works nonstop. And with the other guys, you could see their raw talent, but they don't know necessarily how to put that package together yet, where Hartzell does. So I'm not sure he can crack the NHL as a legitimate starting goaltender.
Might be a little early for that.
Yeah, but at 24 years old, though, he needs to do it soon.
I see what you're saying.
Because he's gone through 4 years of school and plus junior, so he is 24. Versus the other ones, the oldest one is 20.
Yeah.
So he's got 4 years there, but I think he could be a good starting goaltender at the AHL level.
Yep.
And if he, with that work ethic and has a good jump this season, he could be a good backup in the NHL. Should it come to that, with the Penguins having Bokun under contract for 1 more year, they don't need that right now, but they will down the road.
I don't want to get you in trouble with Tommy McMillan or anything like that, but as we've always said on the show, who cares what he thinks? As we've always said on the show, the Pens have a serious problem in net. Thank God they had Bokun, because he was able to bail them out a bit once they started to decided to play and didn't follow the Bob Nelson rules of hockey. But in any event, Marc-Andre Fleury has exemplified a major desire to choke when the pressure is on, which is not good for a goaltender. And I realize he had a baby this year, and that could have been distracting, but I ain't buying that. And there were even rumors, and some of them are still circulating, that he's on the trade block here. I had mentioned earlier on this show and on our official In the Crease Facebook page that the fact that the Pens went out and did all of this shopping for goaltenders that you mentioned, especially when they picked up Hartzell, who did look strong with Quinnipiac, I thought, especially when they picked him up, that sent a different signal than what we're getting from McMillan's press department, which is, Marc-Andre is our man and he's our number one guy. And it seems to me that with all these moves that they just don't have the confidence in him that they may have had 2 or 3 years ago. Are we reading that right? Or
I think that there's a factor in there. I don't think it's the primary. I think that the Penguins' philosophy has been very strong in the last couple of years. When we moved into the new building, even a couple of years before that, we went through some down years, and they just didn't have anything in the system. They had good players. The year that Crosby was a rookie, they were expected to win the Cup, and they lost their first 9 games of the season, I think. It's just because their depth wasn't very strong. When you have Lemieux and Crosby on the same team, why wouldn't you do well? Depth wasn't there. and they've really taken the approach of we've got to stock up our system, we've got to make it deeper, and then give themselves assets, as Shero likes to call them. Is that hey, we got a crop of defensemen that are just unbelievable right now. And they're not all going to make the NHL because there's simply not room for them, but they're all capable. So that gives you an asset to trade to get something in that can play on your NHL roster. I think they've done that with the goaltenders. To give that option of, hey, again, if none of the four work out, that's pretty unusual. But if one of them does, and then there's a second one waiting in the wings, it gives them an asset to move to get something that can help the NHL level team.
They seem to be waning on Brad too a little bit. He's been called up a couple of times from Wilkes-Barre, but when he's been called up, he hasn't really.
Thiessen was not re-signed this year, so he's not going to come back to the organization. Jeff Zatkov ended up taking the starting position last year.
Okay.
Thiessen played very well in the playoffs for the Baby Penguins, but Zatkov is the guy there now. And then that's where I expect Hartzell to kind of step in and take Thiessen's role, because it's been really there's two positions that have gone through the wash with the Penguins: it's power forward and goaltenders. That they're trying. They give these guys all these chances, and the forward position, Eric Tangradi is the example. That's very easy. They gave him all the opportunity in the world, and just never worked out, so they shipped him along. That's what Thiessen went through. He was a very good goaltender, just hit that ceiling that just couldn't crack the NHL, so they moved along and bring in someone that can take that spot.
Yeah. Now, we always know, especially the philosophy on this show, that when you're building a team, you build from the net out. But I realize that you spent an awful lot of time down at the prospect camp, so I guess it would just be rude of me as a host if I didn't ask you to go ahead and give you a report on both the forwards and the defensemen that you saw at the game.
We'll start with the D, because that was the big position to watch there. They're 5 guys deep on defense in the prospects that were there that can make the NHL, no question. Brian Dumoulin is probably NHL ready at this point.
Really?
And there's just might not be a spot for him because there's 7 guys ahead of him in the system that have NHL experience and signed contracts. Bortuzzo just signed, so he's the 7th defenseman right now. But Dumoulin's got size. He's mature. He's really evolved his game offensively to make an impact with the Penguins. So he's there as an option if something should change at the top, a trade or an injury or whatever it may be. So I think that he's the first guy we're going to see. But after that, Olli Määttä, who was drafted last year with the first pick the Penguins owned last year. I'll get to the next one there, but he was the first-round pick of the Penguins last year. He's got the most talent of anyone in the system.
Oh, really?
He is the #1 prospect in my mind.
Yeah.
He's very young, so he has by the collective bargaining agreement, he has to make the NHL team this year or return to juniors. He'll probably return to juniors and dominate. He's just that talented at this point. We also picked up Derek Pouliot in the draft last year. Pouliot was the draft pick we took from Carolina in the Jordan Staal trade. So he's got Letang ability offensively. Actually, in one of my articles, I commented he passes like Paul Coffey, and that's pretty good praise, I think. The goalie just reminds me.
That was your opinion, or that's what the Pens told you to say?
And that's what I said.
Okay, very good, very good.
Pouliot's got some areas of his game to round up, but he's only 19 also, so he's got some time to mature in juniors, and he'll come in and make a big splash wherever he lands in the organization afterwards. Dumoulin, by chance there, just to throw this in here, he was a physical player we picked up in this Jordan Staal trade. So everyone did kind of cheer the Jordan Staal trade at the time, but we're starting to physically see the return on that. Is that we got Dumoulin, who can play in the NHL right now, and Pouliot with a ton of ability. So, plus we got Sutter, which everyone knows about. So I think, and we all praise Shero, but there's a good trade to look at down the road in 2 or 3 years. That Jordan Stahl's going to still be a good player in the NHL, but we're going to have 3 NHL quality players that we got in return. That's I'd take 3 players in the NHL over 1, unless it's Crosby or Malkin, But so we won that trade at this point. Scott Harrington is another defenseman that we drafted 2 years ago. He's NHL ready. With a little bit of seasoning in the AHL, he'll be there. So mid-season, I think he'll be in a position to come up and play with the NHL team should they need him. Very reliable defensive defenseman, good with the puck. Just he's not going to contribute much offensively. But that's an area of his game he can improve on.
So you think he's going to sit in Wilkes-Barre?
Yeah, he'll end up in Wilkes-Barre this year. He's done with junior eligibility. He'll come to Wilkes-Barre.
I see.
And then Philip Samuelsson is the 5th down the line now.
That's a familiar name.
Yeah, Samuelsson. We all know that one. If we watch Sunday Night Classics on Root Sports, you see Ulf Samuelsson still. If you weren't alive then, like some of us weren't. But he's the son of Ulf Samuelsson. Plays much like him. Not as big, strength-wise, but he's tall. He does play a physical game. He's not very great with the puck. That's, you know, just like his dad, just out there to be a physical presence. And that's unfortunate for him because I named 4 other defensemen that are ahead of him.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the ability and the size to make the NHL, but it's going to be tough to pass up, you know, 12 other guys to even crack the lineup. Yeah. He is the most experienced of the guys I mentioned, though, because he left Boston College early and has been in the AHL for 2 seasons. So he's a seasoned option there, if nothing else. So Wilkes-Barre's in good shape with those 5. Well, not all going to make Wilkes-Barre, but with those defensemen, and then his experience there, just being a young kid still with 2 years of pro experience under his belt. So they're in good shape there defensively. And then even down the list, there's some guys they drafted this year. Ryan Segala, who they picked up in a late round this year. You can see if you really study the draft that the Penguins have done is they know the depth of the organization. And in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, they're taking kids that are very young and raw, that are really projects is the best way to put them. Yeah. Segala is one of them. Segala was here in Pittsburgh in March and won the national championship for the midget U18 level at the USA Hockey Nationals. A month or 2 later, he's drafted by the Penguins, so that's not a bad jump for him. Obviously very inexperienced if you're still playing midget hockey when you're drafted. He's going to the University of Connecticut next year, so he still has a couple of years. They don't need to rush him along. They're waiting on him and seeing how he develops over that time. So defensively, we're exceptionally strong. That puts us in a position to segue here into, see me using big TV words here, segue.
I like that.
Into the forwards, because I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to move some of these assets and pick up a forward or two because we're just not that deep in the forward position. The first guy that jumps off the page is Adam Perrell at the forwards because he was almost an unknown name last year. And every single coach, without being prompted or solicited, talked about how Adam Perrell improved over the last year and how he's made an impression on them at this camp. He is that next power forward project. Big body, plays a north-south style game. He's going to go to the front of the net and try to bang in a few goals for you. He was in Wheeling a good portion of last year, then moved up to Wilkes-Barre. So he's not ready to come to the Penguins yet. Yeah. But he's not too far off if he continues this upward trend here. But that rate alone right there kind of highlights the difference between where we stand at forward and where we stand at D. Is our top prospect at forward isn't ready for the NHL.
Gotcha.
And we've got a couple guys in defense that can definitely, even with a little bit of extra experience, make the NHL team.
Dave, I tell you what, I wish we could talk a little bit more about this. And I actually, in talking to you with the emails, I wanted to talk about your opinions on the realignment of the league and everything. But as always, we've run out of time. You start talking about hockey, you get off on all these tangents and all these things kind of happen. But I do want to thank you for swinging on by and telling us your opinions. I guess just an overall idea or concept after you saw the prospects camp, you are...
I'm enthusiastic about the future. It's real easy to be excited when you have Crosby and Malkin in your roster, but it's also nice to know that you have guys like Dumoulin and Mata in the system that can come up and make an impact within 2 or 3 years and keep this team going in the direction they're headed.
Good.
They've done a good job at stocking up the organization for long-term success.
That's great. It is a pleasure seeing you once again.
Absolutely.
I would be remiss if, because Bob's not here, and I would be remiss if I did not say that we'd like to thank Play It Again Sports out in Greensburg, where Bob is today, why he couldn't be on the show. Their number is 724-834-1121. They help sponsor the show. In fact, David, they have provided goodies for you for being on the show. Here is
excellent
an Eagle hockey hat, and going with that is, I think this is an inline. Yeah, Pure Hockey Wheel, Sure Shot. Nice little jacket for you here, too, windbreaker. You could wear to your next commissioner's meeting, and people say, wow, you must have been on In the Crease. So we'd like to thank Play It Again Sports. If you're looking for sporting equipment or you want to sell some sporting equipment, that's the place to be. It's a short little drive out to Greensburg, and their number again is 724-834-1121. My guest has been David Fryer. Always a pleasure. On behalf of Bob, who is doing his Claude Rains impression right now, I'm Fiore. And remember, when it comes down to hockey, if you're in the game, you're in the crease.